Okay, we're now going on to section 2 of chapter 5, and we've gone from addition and subtraction of polynomials to multiplying polynomials. So just a little review. Some of it's pretty easy. Maybe I can give you a technique that may be useful. Well, one of the things you want to do is figure out what sign will the answer have. Well, this term is negative, this term is positive, so unlike signs, and we can give you that over here, like signs give you a positive results. That would be two negatives or two positives. And unlike signs, that is where one is positive and the other is negative, that will give you a negative results. So again, a strategy is, what will the end sign be? And in this case, we know it's going to be a negative. So put the negative there so you don't forget it. And we'll do the others, but that's particularly useful in this one. So this will be a negative 10, and then now we're just adding the exponents. X to the 6th, 4 plus 2. And then here's the distributive property. This is 24x squared minus 28x. Now, another thing to remember as we move on in chapter 5, we're going to take terms like this and we're going to take out the greatest common factor, which is this. So this is distribution. Remember, later we will factor it. Multiplication is a little easier. Factoring is a little more challenging. So again, we're distributing, and I'll write this underneath. So here our sign will be negative, negative 3, a to the 3rd power, b, and then our x. Never hurts to check. Negative is good, 3, a to the 3rd, bx. Now you could have put the x someplace else, but normally they put them alphabetically. Now here it's critical, negative times negative, that will give you a positive, 3, a to the 3rd, b, and checking it, correct sign, a to the 3rd b, yep. And then now negative times negative gives you a positive. 3 times 5 is 15. And then you bring your a, b along. Now remember, a little later on in this chapter, they're going to ask you to factor out the greatest common factor. So you're going to have this, and you'll be asked to put it in that form. Now I skipped number 5, but we're going on to 6. 5 is very similar. Here we have a binomial. We're asked to multiply it by a trinomial. And again, what I want to show you is strategy to make these a little easier for yourself and almost guaranteed to get the right answer. So my strong advice is when you have a binomial or a trinomial that you're going to multiply it by another trinomial, instead of doing it horizontally, and that is a way, if you're comfortable with that, do it that way. I suggest you set it up doing it vertically, this way. And as we go on, I'll show you why. So basically we're going to take the negative 7 and multiply it by each term up here. So negative 7 times 1 is a negative 7. Negative 7 times a positive 4y will be a negative 28y. Negative 7 times 3y squared is going to be a negative 21y squared. And again, never hurts to check your work. Negative 7 times 1, negative 7. Negative 7 times this, that's good. Okay. Now this next one, it's critical because we're going to take this term and multiply it by each of these. But when we get our results, we want to put it in like term columns. I have plenty of room over here because I'm not going to end up with any like terms. So again, a good thing to set it up this way. So 2y to the third times 1 is going to be 2y to the third. There are no like term columns to put it under. This times this will give me a positive 8y to the fourth. And this one will give me a 6y to the fifth. All right, this is sort of a strange example since there were no like terms, but hopefully you can see the value of putting them in the like term columns. So now you just add them all up. This will be your answer. There are no combining of like terms. And that was example 6. Okay, we're now going into a special kind of multiplication when we multiply a binomial by a binomial. And this method is called FOIL. And it comes from the acronym F for the first, multiply the first, x times x, x squared. O for outers, that will be a positive 8x. I for inners, that's a negative 2x. And L for last, that will be a negative 16. So again, a special method of multiplying binomials, we call it the FOIL. X times x, x squared. Outers, positive 8x. Inners, negative 2x. And then last, negative 16. Are we finished? No, because we see we have like terms here. So this is going to become x squared plus 6x minus 16. Now something again to keep in mind that later in the chapter we're going to have this trinomial that we will want to factor. And we'll go over that method a little later. Okay, again, first, this will be y squared. Outers, a negative 6y. Inners, a negative 5y. And then last, a positive 30. And then grouping our like terms, y squared minus 11x plus 30. And again, later in the chapter, we'll be taking this trinomial and factoring it. But foiling is sort of easy, but it's something you need to memorize And often these two inner terms, this is done mentally. You don't write it out, you do it mentally. But in the beginning, strong advice, write it out. Foiling. All right, continuing with topic 5.2, the FOIL. Here they're getting a little more challenging. First, outers, inners, last, and then combining like terms. And it never hurts to check your work. First, outers, inners, last. That's good. All right, 6x times 9x is 54x squared. Outers is 1/2 times 6x. Inners, 1/3 of 9x will be 3x. And then last, 1/3 times 1/2. And combining our middle terms, and once again, to keep in mind that later we're going to take something like this and we'll want to factor it into its two binomial factors. This one would probably be a challenge. And I don't recall having to do any like that, at least in our course.